Hey, I'm just representing the music genres, right? That was Fats Waller, old jazz artist. Song's called Functionalizing, and that's what we're doing today. We're functionalizing. So we're going to work with functions a little bit and watch this video. I'll show you how this all works. Functions are really, there's not going to be new programming involved in this, but they're a way to organize your programming. So here's how this works. Right now we have this little program. If you look at the code that I sent you, it's like a paddle ball kind of thing. There's a paddle, there's a ball that comes flying across the screen. There's a little scoreboard thing up in the top that says Lost Orbs, right? And we're going to make this work sort of like a little game. It's not going to be a full-blown game, but I'll show you. I want you to see how functions work, and I want you to try it. So here we go. There are two things you have to do. You have to create a function, and then you have to call a function. Create the function, call the function. Follow me here. Here's how it works. It's all on the handout that I posted as well. Down here at line number 19, it says we're gonna create a paddle control function. Well, we just want to be able to move the paddle up and down. That's all we have to do. All right. So what we're going to do there is go to the functions drawer, and we'll just bring over this very first one that just says function, and it says my function, and we'll drop it right in there. I'll try that again. We'll drop it right in there. Now, functions need to have a name, and I always would name my functions for what they do. So I'm going to call this paddle control. There's nothing magic about that. It's just what the function is made for. It's made to control the paddle. And spelling counts, capitalization counts. You have to be careful about function names, and you don't want to use a function name like draw, because that's already a function name. You don't want to probably use a function name called var, because that's already a code block, right? You have to kind of be careful about your names a little bit. All right, so for paddle control, it's just going to be this. I'm going to say if key down. Now pay attention there. It's key down, not key went down. It's key down. And I'm going to say if key down up, then I'm just going to change the paddle's y coordinate, sprite.y, and it's going to be, what do we got, paddle, right? It's called paddle. Paddle.y equals paddle.y, and it's going up, so I'm going to say minus, and this is where you can kind of adjust this. This just has to do with how fast you know, when you hit the up arrow, how fast does the paddle move. Numbers always make a difference when you're programming, right? So that's if somebody's pushing the up arrow, the paddle should move up. Let's do the same thing for moving the paddle down. And again, copy and paste would probably be your friend here, but it's also not like it's hard. I'm going to say if key down is the down arrow, then we're going to go the y value. It's going to be paddle.y equals paddle.y plus 10, because it's going down, so that's going to add to the y value. Now, the other thing you have to do here, the main part of your program is here in your draw loop. It's up here, like in this example, it's up here at line 11. You got your draw loop that really is kind of the guts of your program. That's what makes, it runs through that loop all the time, just running the program. This function is sitting down here below the draw loop. So what we have to do to make sure that we have paddle control, here's what it looks like. You go to the functions drawer here, and there's this third one down is just a little skinny thing that says call a function. So we bring it over here, and we drop it in there. And we put the name of the function in there. Now I named it paddle control down here. So I have to call it by that name. Paddle control. Right? If your mom calls you to come for dinner, she calls you by name. She calls you by your name. I hope. So I got to do that here. I got to call the function by that name, right? They need to match. All the spelling and punctuation and capitalization and anything you got in there has to match. Excuse me. All right, so if I reset and run this, nothing's really going to happen except I ought to have paddle control. Right, and I'm hitting the up and down arrow, and you can see that I can now control the paddle. This function that I created and called, it's a two-part thing. And like I said, it's not really new programming necessarily. It's just a new way to organize the programming. There's this little command here at line 15. It says paddle control. What's it do? Well, it tells the computer to go down here. You know, the computer's thinking, what's paddle control? So it looks down here and says, oh, that's paddle control. Down here at line 21, there's this little package of coding here that is called paddle control, and it's controlling the paddle. All right. Well, so let's continue and let's look at some other things that go along with this. Down to line 30, I've got a comment down here for lost orb. All right, so a lost orb would be an orb that goes off the right side of the game screen without the paddle catching it, right? It got by the paddle. Think of the paddle like a goalie in a soccer game, and if the orb, the ball, gets past the paddle, that's a lost orb. It's gone. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and build this function that will check for a lost orb. So I'm in my functions drawer, and I'll bring over a function box here, a function block, and I'm going to call it lost orb. There we go. And this the whole lost orb thing is only true if the ball has gone past the right-hand side. Right? That's the only time we want it to work. So it's a conditional thing, right? We don't want it to just like happen all the time. So the first thing here, I got to set this up, is on the lost orb, if, and it's going to be a dot x. All right, so, well, actually, yeah, can I do that? Let me see. Nope, I can't do that. Boom, take that out. I'm going to use math here, and I'm going to use a greater than. All right, and I'll just type it in. I'm going to do if orb dot x is greater than 400. There we go. That's what I wanted. So all of this stuff that's about to happen is only going to happen if the orb flies off the side of the screen. All right, so what do we want to have happen if that's true? Well, okay, one thing is up here at line number 8, I've got a variable keeping track of lost orbs. So down here, if the orb does fall off here, if the orb does fly off, I'm going to say lost equals lost plus 1, because I'm going to keep track of lost orbs just for fun. It's not really, you know, I don't have anything in this game to make it end at any certain point, but just for fun, let's do that. All right, so if it's true, the ball flies off the side, we get another lost orb, and then also I want to take the orb.x and set it back to 0, which is back over on the left-hand side. We want to do that. And for the orb.y, the y position of the orb, I'm going to make that a random number. Why not? Why not throw a little variation in there, right? Anything between 0 and 400 is good with me. And then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to throw in a little variation. I'm going to say orb velocity x, and I'm going to make that a random number as well. And what will happen now is that we'll get some of the little balls that are flying across will be faster and some will be slower. That makes a game more fun, doesn't it, to have some variation? One other thing I'm going to do here, and what I'm trying to do is take out the factor of diagonal motion. I don't really want any diagonal motion. I want it all to be very horizontal motion in this version of this game. So for the orb velocity y, orb.velocity y, I'm going to set it to 0. All right. So down here at line number 31, I've got this function called lost orb, and it's checking to see, here's what it does. Did the orb go past the right-hand side of the screen? If it did, let's keep track. Let's add up the lost orbs. Let's reset it back to the left. For its Y, it's up and down, its vertical coordinate. Let's make that random. For its speed, when it comes back across, let's make that random. And let's make sure it's not drifting up or drifting down, so we'll just go with a Y velocity of 0, and that way it won't drift up or drift down. Now I've got the function called lost orb, but now I also need to go back to the functions drawer, bring over this little bitty guy right here, drop him in the draw loop, and say lost orb. Remember, I have to call the function by its name. All right. Well, let's try that. Okay. And what I have to kind of be ready quick here. I gotta try to miss the. There we go. So see, all we were trying to do right now is make it so if the orb flies off the right-hand side of the screen, it reappears, so the game can continue. That's all we were trying to do, and we did it. All right. Okay, so we got one more function to write here. It's way down at the bottom. On line number 42, it says we also need a reset orb function. Well, here's the deal with that. We now have it, so we have paddle control. Yay. We know what we've got it all programmed, so if the orb goes off the right-hand side, it will reappear back on the left, and the game will continue. Okay, yay. But what if I catch the orb, with the paddle? I hit it with the paddle and I make it go back the other way. And it gets back to the left-hand side. What happens then? And right now, you can see what happens. I'll show you what happens. Watch. It hits the paddle, it goes back, and then it's game over. The orb just disappears and never shows up again. Right? Watch as it comes over, it hits the paddle, and then it goes off of the left, and then we just never see it again. Well, we have to fix that. And we're going to do it with some programming that we know. Here we go. I'm in the functions drawer, and I'm gonna make a function. I'll put it down here at line number 43, way down at the bottom, and I'm going to just call it reset orb. All right, use whatever name. If you want to use a different name, you can. Reset orb. All right, and this is going to be an if. It's going to start off with an if. We only want it to happen in certain circumstances. And this is going to be a less than relationship here. So I'm going to bring a less than block down here. What I'm going to check is if orb.x is less than 0. Oops, sorry. Put that 0 over here. There we go. All right, so that makes it so that it's checking to see, did the orb go back off of the left-hand side of the screen? Is it less than 0? If it did, then we kind of do all the same things. Gosh, you know what? I'm going to copy and paste because I'm going to do all the same things I did up here before. I just want to reset all that, right? I want to get the orb reset back. I'm going to have the x value 0, the y value is going to be random. The velocity x is going to be random, and the velocity y is going to be 0, so it's level. So I'm going to copy this. I'm doing all the same stuff, and I'll bring it down. I'll get my cursor down there where I want it, and I'll paste it. And there it is. That function is now, it's called reset orb, and it checks to see if the orb is less than 0, the x value is less than 0, and gets it all reset here. So now we've got the function, but we have to call the function. And remember, that happens up here in the draw loop, right? That happens. I'm going to move that up just a little bit. There it is. That happens in the draw loop. All right, so go to functions here. And we bring over this. I'll get it out in a minute. We bring over this little call a function thing and drop it in. And what I call that, reset orb. All right, so every time you do a function, you have to call it. And it also has to exist. And you put them down at the bottom. They actually would work up at the top, but they can't be in the draw loop. You can't have them inside the draw loop. All right, so there they all are. The paddle control is there, and lost orb is there, and reset orb is there. And I've called them all. Let's reset this game, and let's run it. And let's control with our, look, we have a little paddle game going on here. Right? It's bouncing back and forth. Sometimes they're fast and sometimes they're slow. And if I lose an orb, oh, look, my lost orbs now is equal to 1. Oh, lost orbs is 2, 3. Yikes. Oh, did I get there? I got there. Whoa, okay. So I made this kind of a little paddle game. And, you know, it's not a perfect game because it doesn't have an ending right now. It doesn't have an end game. But we're learning about functions, and they're working. The functions are working, right? They're all right here. They're called right here at line number 14, 15, 16, and they live down here below the main program. Look at that. All right. Well, so that's what I want you to try. The handout's there to help you. This demo video hopefully might help a little bit. Let's get in there and give it a shot. Functions. Fist bump.